Okay, so in this example, this is going to be very similar to what we did in the last video. But I want to show you this because there's some new functions and there's some other techniques that we can use to pull text together. All right, and I feel better if I know I've told you everything rather than saying, oh, well, they don't need to know this or they don't need to know that. I don't know. You might find some of these other ways a little bit easier to work. I don't know, but you make that choice. But at least I'm going to hand it out to you all so that you can take a look at it and make the determination yourself as to which route you want to go when you're pulling together, combining text into these little phrases or these strings. Okay, so first one we're going to do here is we're going to use a function called the text join. Now the text join is a relatively new function that takes a little bit less work to make happen, but it does have some drawbacks, as you'll see. So I'm going to show it to you. You might say, oh, that's pretty good, but the drawbacks are going to be that we can't add in any special coding so that it'll take like the date here and give us an actual date. It'll actually give us the serial number as a result. But if you weren't going to be using stuff like this, then this is a pretty efficient, pretty effective function over the concat or the concatenate. So here's how you're going to work it. We're going to go here to F2. We're going to type in equal TE, and you'll see text join. We'll double click that. Now, here's pretty cool. What we want to do is we want to pull together all four pieces of information on the left there, each separated by a hyphen, or what they call it, the delimiter. So right off the bat, you tell it what you want that delimiter to be. The advantage here is that if you've got, let's say, 10 items, and if you're doing this with a concatenate or concat, you'd have to put in quotation marks that hyphen after each one of these references. So after A2 and after B2 and after C2 and after D2, or actually after A2, B2, and C2, you'd have to put these hyphens in there. So here you don't have to do it. So we'll just go ahead and put our quotation mark. We'll put a space, hyphen, space, and then quotation mark. All right? Comma. And it wants to know if we want to ignore empty cells. Well, it doesn't matter in this case because we have no empty cells anywhere in here. So in this case, we're going to tell it it doesn't matter, really. We can say, sure, ignore the empty cells. Doesn't matter. All right. Comma. All right. And now it wants to know the range that you want to include. Well, the range is going to be from A2 all the way over to D2, just like that. So that's where the advantage comes in. Now we'll go ahead and hit the enter key, and we get that. So everything came in perfect except for the date. That's the serial number. That's actually how many days since January 1st, 1900 that date is. All right, that's pretty wild. Now we can take that and we go ahead and we'll copy this all the way down to the bottom here. So there it goes. So other than that shortfall here, that's a pretty efficient, pretty effective tool there. Now I'm going to kind of scroll over. I kind of froze columns A through B so we can kind of still keep this on the screen while we're doing each of these. All right, now for this one, we're actually going to use the concatenate along with the text. Now this is pretty much what we did in that last example that maybe some of you skipped. So anyway, so I'm going to show it to you anyway. It won't take that long, really. So I'm just going to do an equal CON. There's our we'll just do concat in this case. We're going to reference A2, all right, comma, and now here's where we're going to have to do the quotation, space, hyphen, space, quotation, comma, and then we're going to have to reference B2, all right, and then comma, quotation, space, hyphen, space, quotation, comma, all right. And then the same thing with our route, which will be this one here, all right? And then a comma, all right? And then we're going to put the quotation, hyphen, oh, I'm sorry, quotation, space, hyphen, space, quotation, comma. And now this is where we're going to have to use the text function in order to bring together the date and bring the date in as looking like a date. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll do the ampersand here, all right? And then we'll put in the TE for text. And there's our text function. And then we're going to reference now this function, right? Or I'm not that function, that date, sorry about that, that date, comma, right? And then in quotations, the way we want that date to look. So mm/dd/YYYY, right? And then quotation marks, and then two parentheses to balance it out. We do that, hit the enter key. I'm looking at this, I'm saying, why did I know what happened here. I put the ampersand in there, and I think I was thinking ahead on that next example. We don't need to put an ampersand in here, so I'm just going to hit OK here. Get rid of that ampersand. We don't need that in there. This will be fine here. So now we hit the enter key, and there we go. And so now we've got the nicely formatted date in there. All right, then we can go ahead and copy that all the way down. That worked out good. All right, so that was that one. Now to the third one here, the third and final. This would be an alternative to using the concat or concatenate. Now I'm not a big fan of this, but I've had a lot of students over the years, they'll say, oh yeah, I like this better. And to me, it's more work, all right? But they seem to think it's easier to work with. So I'll let you decide. So what we'll do is we'll go to this final one here. All right, so we're going to start out with, we're going to say equal, and then we're going to click on to A2, all right? And right after that, and this is where that was in my mind before, you had to put an ampersand in there, okay? And then we'll put a hyphen, all right? And then we'll put a, ampersand, yeah, sorry about that. Get the ampersand in there. And then we have to put a quotation, hyphen, quotation, that's the first one in there. And then another ampersand, all right? And then B2, another ampersand, all right? And then in quotations, a hyphen, all right? Then after that, another ampersand, and now we have to reference now C2, which will be the route, all right? And then right after that C2, another ampersand. You're going to get tired of these ampersands. Ampersand, and another quotation mark, hyphen, quotation, all right? And then finally, one more ampersand, all right? And then now we're going to be referencing the date, but we have to make sure that the date comes in looking like a date. So we're going to do our TE and bring up our text, all right? And then we're going to reference the date. There's your D2, comma, and then in quotations, mm/dd/YYYY, all right? And then close the quotations, and then close the parenthesis. And I think we've got enough here because as far as parentheses go, because we only use one at the beginning, or at the beginning here and at the end, but nothing else. So I think we're good. So that's it. And we enter that in. There we go. I didn't put a space on either side of the hyphens, but you get the idea there. So then we go ahead and copy that down. So you can actually see what the difference would be between having some space on either side of the hyphen and not. All right, so that's what you're looking at here. So, all right, so you make up your mind as to whether that might be a better way than what we've been doing, with the other functions. But again, it's just another way of doing it. So I know you're a little tired of this, and maybe you're at your wit's end. And I apologize if you don't want to go any further with this. Go on to the next video. But I got one more to show you. It's a very short one, okay? And that is this third tab here. I have a number of different sales reps. We have their rates, and they're actually numbers, but they've been formatted to have a bracket or parenthesis on either side of them there. And then we have like their percentage. I forgot what the number really represents, but we have some sort of percentage. And what we want to do is we want to combine both of these and have the 12% or the percentage first, and then have the number in parentheses after it, and be able to do that. Now, I got this idea from one of my students many years ago who was trying to do something similar to this, and they were just having a heck of a time with it. So I came up with the formula that she needed to do to make this happen. So very quickly, here's what we'd have to do. We go over here to D2, all right? We type in equal TE, and we start right out with the text function, all right? We reference the first thing we want, which is the percentage, comma, and the way we want that percentage to look is, in quotation marks, we want a number made into a percent, and that's what we put in there. So that's the first part, all right? And then once we've done that, we'll close off the parenthesis, all right? And now, oh, here it comes back to haunt us. We have now to put the ampersand in there, a quotation, a space, and a quotation. That gives us the spacing between the two, right? All right, and then what we're going to do next is put another ampersand in there, our last one, and then TE for text. There we go on that one. And then after that, we're going to reference now the rate, so that's going to be B2, comma, and then the way we want that to look is, in quotations, we want the left parenthesis, all right? We want a number, all right, so that's going to be a little pound there. And then our right parenthesis, all right? And then a quotation to balance that off, and then our parenthesis, all right? Hopefully you didn't fall asleep. All right, hit the enter key on that one. There it is. Then we can take that and copy it down. So there we go. All right, so hopefully maybe you can use that one, but I think just all that we've been kind of doing over the past couple of videos, I think that should give you a really good feel for how you might in the future want to combine your various fields of information, cells of information, into some sort of a string or phrase, as we call it, right? Okay, well, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully it can help you out. Take care.